It's now time for us to acquire our 0% interest unsecured business credit cards, so we're going to be going over exactly how unsecured business credit card funding works. There's a reason why people pay funding companies 10% fees of $5,000, $10,000, and even $15,000 to acquire the funds for them. There's two primary focuses of funding, and the first is getting the most approvals. People go with these funding companies because they can get 6 to 9 approvals where the average person can only get 2. The second focus is to get the highest approvals. How does a business get approved for 6 to 9 business credit cards? The reason why business credit cards are the ideal source of funding for new businesses is because in 99% of cases there's no documentation required. The only time they'll typically require documentation is if you are requesting a limit. A specific limit that breaks the threshold of that bank. You can take a look at their website to see if there's a limit. Oftentimes, you can start a brand new LLC. Make it compliant with the phone number, website, address, and email, then go apply with your EIN, articles of organization, and your state ID for business credit cards and get approved without documentation. If they do require documentation, they'll let you know what documentation they need. For example, if you're requesting over $35,000, they will let you know what documentation they need to see. This will usually be on the application on their website, or you can call and ask them. How do we get the most approvals? Ideally, having 0 inquiries in the past 6 to 12 months is how we get the most approvals. Every inquiry makes it more difficult to get approved for a business credit card. Typically, after 2 inquiries in 6 to 12 months, you will no longer be able to get approved. So, first off, you're always going to want to get pre-approved if possible. If you Google Chase, American Express, Wells Fargo, you can try to get pre-approved first because it's a soft pull and it doesn't affect your credit. Also, it'll let you know in advance if you're wasting an inquiry or not. Remember, these inquiries are very valuable because every inquiry is a 0% credit card that could be $10,000 to $40,000 and could be used to invest or scale your current business. Something else you could do is speak with the underwriters and ask them what credit bureaus they pull from, plus you can ask them what the requirements are. They're pretty easy to get a hold of. All you have to do is call, and within a few minutes you can get connected to the underwriters and they can tell you the bureau they pull, what they're looking for, and what types of things they're going to deny you for. Funding companies get approvals by getting 2 approvals per bureau. So typically you want to do 2 things. You want to do a security freeze on each of the bureaus. Then below, you're going to take that list of lenders that shows where a lot of these business cards pull from. Give them a call and ask them where they're pulling from. They'll tell you. Our goal is to get 2 approvals per bureau, because after those 2 inquiries, typically we can't get any more approvals. So that's how we get approved for 6 business credit cards all within 1 week. Now, if we don't know what bureau they pull and for whatever reason, the person on the phone isn't cooperating, just hang up and try to call again and see if you can speak to someone else. Alternatively, you could also just set up your credit monitoring service and you can apply to that bank first. Apply to the ones first that you don't know where they pull from and get those approvals. The credit monitoring will tell you where it pulled from, and then you can go ahead and do your other applications. So the idea is to freeze Experian and Equifax and then apply for 2 approvals on TransUnion. Afterwards, unfreeze Experian, then try to get 2 approvals with them. Then unfreeze Equifax and get 2 approvals with them. You don't necessarily have to do this in this order if you're very confident which bureau they're going to pull from, because you got that verified through the phone call with the bank. Sometimes we can get a 3rd approval per bureau. What you do is open up the applications for the 2 banks that pull from the same bureau. If you submit both of those applications within a second of each other, for example, you fill them both out and submit the first, then quickly submit the second. In many cases, they will pull the same report only showing 1 inquiry. This means you'll get 2 approvals even though you only had 1 inquiry left. This isn't necessary, but for some people it is a very useful way to get that other approval if they don't have what it takes to get approved on other bureaus, or if they're just looking for more business credit and looking to maximize the amount of approvals. The other objective of funding is getting the highest approvals, the highest amount of credit approved. One way to do so is the stated income. Many of these credit unions give you a credit card with a limit that is 10% of your income on your application. If you're a new business, or if you just created your LLC recently, you don't have income stated, which means your income is a projection as it's a new business. So you're projecting that you're going to do $200,000 in revenue. You're not lying if it's a projection. Let them know that you don't have income yet, or let them know, for example, This month you did 15,000 and you're only going to grow more each month. You're projecting that you're going to be able to do 15,000, or launching a new product or service, or you're going to start some additional marketing. Whatever it is, let them know that it's a projection that you're going to be doing, for example, $15,000 in revenue. It's very important to try to get a higher amount approved. The majority of the time it's not verified, but if you state that your income is $250,000 or more, there's a chance that they're going to try to verify it. It's best to say that you're in the $200,000 range because in many cases that's going to get you a $20,000 approval or more. The other way to get the highest amount approved is before you activate the card. If you get an approval, once it comes in the mail, before you activate that card, call the number on the sticker and let them know that they approved you for $15,000, and before you activate the card, you want to see if there's any way to increase this limit. Let them know that, for example, $5,000 isn't enough for your monthly marketing expenses. You can let them know how much it may cost, like $15,000, and that you pay that off in full each month. Then ask if there is any way they can increase this to $15,000. Before you activate the card, it's your last opportunity to try to increase the amount. You may have to hang up and call again and try a different person. But it's definitely worth it to get another $5 to $15K. But don't push it too much. Try to keep it in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. Another way to get the highest amount approved is by going to a local credit union. The big nationwide banks are typically not as generous, and you want to do your in-person applications first before doing your online applications. So if you're looking to get a total of over $40,000 in funding, you're going to want to go with a credit union. If you have a very strong credit profile, an 800 score, and many accounts with a really good credit age, then yes, nationwide banks such as Chase will give you 20,000 approvals. But if your credit is a little bit newer, don't expect anything over 10K with all those nationwide banks. If it's very important to you to get the most amount approved, or if you're very limited because you have a lot of inquiries, you're going to want to go with your local credit unions to ensure you get the most amount of funding possible. Now, if you get denied, it's important that you call the reconsideration line. People often get denied. Then they call the reconsideration line for Chase, and the only reason they were denied was because they needed more information. That's it. They just needed an address verified, or they just needed your income verified, or they just needed to ask you a question. Don't forget to call the reconsideration line because it's worth it. You must fight for that approval, so if it's just a little bit more information that they need, have them reach out to the underwriters and do whatever you can to get this approved. So let's push, let's debate, let's do whatever it takes.